What's up guys, it's Yannick here from Calisthenics family, and today I'm going to show you guys my shoulder mobility routine to get strong, stable and flexible shoulders. So let's do this. Alright guys, so welcome to today's workout. So like I said, I'm going to do the shoulder mobility routine that I've been doing in the past month. So I'm going to do this for two reasons. The first reason is because I had a recent injury in my shoulder, so I focus a lot more on shoulder mobility in the past 4 weeks. And another point is that I just want to address that it's really important to focus on these rotator cuff muscles in your shoulder joint, and it's really important to get strong and flexible shoulders for especially advanced calisthenics exercises which require a high mobility in the shoulders. Alright, so before I'm going to start with the exercises, I just want to mention the difference between the rotator cuff muscles in the shoulder joint and the scapular muscles that are all attached to the shoulder blade at the back of your shoulder. So there are often some misunderstanding about shoulder mobility and where you have to work on to get a mobile and stable shoulder. So in this video I'm going to address only the muscles that goes from the scapula, the shoulder blade towards the shoulder joint. So these four muscles are the subscapularis, the teres minor, the infraspinatus and the supraspinatus. So these four muscles are the rotator cuff muscles, and the scapular muscles are like a bigger part of the shoulder area. So these also involves the delts, the trapezius and also the serratus and many more muscles. So in this video I'm only going to address the four rotator cuff muscles. So let's get started with the first exercise. So I'm going to do dynamic exercise to get a strong and stable shoulder, and after this I'm going to do some stretches to get a flexible shoulder joint. So let's get started with the first dynamic exercise. Alright guys, so the first exercise will be the rotations behind the back. This is one of my favorite exercises to warm up my rotator cuff muscles, and this exercise actually targets all the rotator cuff muscles and also your overall shoulder mobility. So in the overhead part, you really work on the overhead part that is beneficial for overhead exercises such as the handstand or the pike push-up, and in the lower part of this exercise you will really target the supraspinatus, which is really a muscle that is hard to target. So this actually is really a good solution to target the supraspinatus. So it's really important to do this exercise really slow and controlled, especially when you start with this exercise for the first time. It really can feel like a uncomfortable exercise, so really start off really slow and controlled. Once you get comfortable with this exercise, you can also step a little bit forward to make it a little bit heavier. So let's go to the next exercise. This will be the internal rotations from the hip. And with this exercise, you will target the subscapularis. So as you can see, it's really important that your elbow will always be in contact with your hip. So with this method, you will really isolate the rotator cuff muscle, so the subscapularis. So don't forget to also do the other side, and for this exercise you should do 12 repetitions for each arm. And one thing to mention is that with all of these exercises it is really important to not go too heavy. So the next exercise is really similar, but now we're going to do an external rotation. And this exercise is going to target the infraspinatus and the teres minor. Also really important with this exercise that your elbow will always be in contact with your hips, like you see me doing now. It's also important to do this really controlled, and only when you can easily do 12 repetitions and it still feels really easy, you can do a step sideways, so you can make this exercise a little bit heavier. So the fourth exercise is the internal rotation from the shoulder. So now we're going to tie the band a little bit higher at shoulder height, like you can see in the video. It's really important with this exercise to keep your elbows at exactly the same position as your shoulder. So not too much forward, not too much backwards. So from here you're going to press forward while keeping your elbow in position. And this exercise, guys, is really where I felt my torn muscle, so the muscle that got injured, and that was the subscapularis muscle. So this doing these exercises, like doing all of these exercises in this video, is really a good tool to discover where exactly you got the injury. So that can be the subscapularis, the infraspinatus, the teres minor, or maybe another muscle. Alright, so the fifth exercise is the external rotations from the shoulder. This is the last dynamic exercise that we're going to cover. So it's really important also with this exercise is to keep your elbows and exactly at the same alignment as your shoulders. So as you can see in the video, from here you're going to pull backwards, and this is really going to target infraspinatus and the teres minor. So the goal with this exercise also to do 12 repetitions, and also, like I said before, you don't want to go too heavy, and that's also the reason why we are only doing one set of each exercise. So we're doing 5 dynamic exercises and only one set per side, because you don't want to go too heavy, so you don't want to have like sore muscles the next day. Alright, so that was the dynamic part. Now let's move on to the static exercises. These are more like the stretches, but it's really important to know that these are also dynamic stretches. So you will move within these stretches. And this is really important, like I said, to not go too heavy also with these stretches. You should not go like to a 100% stretch for the 45 seconds of this flexibility exercise. So like you can see me pulling my elbows inwards with my knees, but I'm also taking it easy like each 5 seconds. So really try to focus that when you exhale, that is the moment that you're trying to go a little bit deeper, and when you inhale, you're trying to go like a little bit more loose from the stretch. So this exercise is the internal shoulder stretch, and with this exercise you're going to target the infraspinatus and the teres minor. Alright guys, so this exercise is really my favorite stretch, but also the one that was really painful for me, because this was exactly the muscle that I got injured at. So I probably got a little tear in like the subscapularis, because this exercise is going to stretch the subscapularis. So this really hurt me, so I really had to go easy on this one for the last 4 weeks. But it's really a very good exercise, and it's really good to implement this not only when you have an injury, but just in general. You have to do this exercise every week to get strong and flexible rotator cuff muscles. So it's also really important with this exercise to keep your elbows aligned with your shoulders, just like the previous rotations from the shoulder. Alright, so let's move on to the other side. And the goal with this stretch is to hold this for 45 seconds, but make sure to don't go to your max like the exercise before. You want to do this exercise dynamic. So when you exhale, you want to go a little bit deeper, and when you inhale, you want to go a little bit soft on this exercise. Alright, then the 8th exercise is going to be the sleeper stretch. This is also a really good exercise. It really feels good in the rotator cuff area. So guys, it looks like I'm really pushing my arm very hard towards the ground, but it's not that hard, and you should also not go too hard on this exercise as well. Just make sure that you not go to your 100% for the full 45 seconds. So as you can see, I'm going really dynamic. I'm going up and down all the time. And during the 45 seconds, you can also really see that I'm getting deeper and deeper, like at each try. So, and you will also notice with this exercise, the first time when you do this exercise, it can be really uncomfortable. You won't probably go as deep as you see me doing in this exercise. But when you're doing this for like like regular, consistently, you will really notice progress in your stretch, which will also have many benefits for the exercises that you are doing within your calisthenics training. Alright, so let's go to the other side, and you will also really notice that one side will be tighter than the other side. So for me, my left arm was actually slightly tighter than my right arm, so it took me a little bit more time to go all the way to the ground with my fingers. So once again, if you don't reach it with your fingers towards the ground, that's no problem at all. So I'm doing this exercise for like more than a year now, and I really notice that when I'm not implementing this exercise like for a month or 2 months in a row, that my progress will really suffer from this. It's also a lesson for me that I should be always doing these exercises, because I've been skipping these sometimes for 1 or 2 months. But you really gotta pay attention to these small rotator cuff muscles as well. Alright, so let's move on to the last stretch. I like to call this the stick stretch. And this exercise is really done incorrectly very often, so you should not do this like you see me doing right now. So it's really important to have a protracted scapula and not lean too much backwards. So this stretch really should come from your shoulders and not from bending your back all the way back. So really focus on a protracted scapula and then move the stick all the way backwards. So I always like to work with progressions on my stick. So as you can see, I started doing this exercise as wide as possible on this stick, but after two repetitions I moved on a little bit smaller. So that's also a way to measure my progress with this exercise, and also to measure my flexibility in my shoulder. So this exercise is a really beneficial exercise for many calisthenics exercises. Think for example about the German hang and the back lever, where you hang completely upside down on the bars. So your flexibility and mobility in your shoulder will really be tested by these exercises, and you will also really feel that it's really hard to do these exercises if your shoulders are not mobile. So this is one of my favorite exercises to get mobile shoulders. Alright guys, so these were all the exercises, actually my favorite exercises for shoulder mobility, stability and strength that I've been doing in the past 4 weeks to recover from my injury. And once again, these are not only to prevent an injury, but it's also to really get strong in the outer angles of these exercises. For example, in the archer push-up, where I actually got my injury from, where we have to put a lot of strength in this angle, which is really an uncommon position. But also think about a German hang, for example, when you try to practice the back lever or other exercises that really ask a lot of mobility in the shoulders. So that is really the point of this video, to get strong shoulder joints. So I personally have been doing this exact routine 2 times a week, so I would really suggest to do this at least 1 time per week. And I'm also implementing these dynamic exercises in every single warm-up that I do before every exercise. So for my pull exercises and before my push exercises, to really make sure that I just don't skip these exercises, because I just know that these are so very important. So I'll also add a full routine list that you can screenshot to take into your own workout. Alright, so because we know that these mobility exercises are so important, we also implement all of these exercises into our workout program. So if you're interested, or if you want our help to reach your goals, check out the link in the description and sign up for the program that fits your goals. So that's it for today, and I really hope that this video was helpful for you. If it was helpful, let us know in the comments, and also let us know if you want to see a video about another subject. So please like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Peace out.